All right, let's crush another chemistry question. This one's about naming molecular compounds. So we've got a couple different compounds here. Let's name them. So the first thing to consider when you're naming a compound is whether it's ionic or covalent. This one is covalent because it's two nonmetals that are involved in this. So silicon and oxygen both appear on the right side of the periodic table and are nonmetals. So we have a covalent bond here, so we want to consider covalent bond rules. We can use this flow chart to determine the rules for naming compounds, and there are kind of a lot of rules, so this is a good tool to use. So we're going to follow the covalent bond rules, and those say that we want to use prefixes on top of the names of the elements. So because silicon is there's only one silicon atom, and it's the first element, we don't have to include mono for that, so we can just say silicon, and then we will do a prefix for the oxygen. There are two of those. It will be silicon dioxide. So typically we put a prefix on both, but because the first element is only one, we don't include mono, which is the prefix for one. If it was only one oxide, we would say monoxide here. And whatever the second element is in a covalent compound, we're going to put "ide" at the end. So instead of dioxygen, we say dioxide. So that would be the name of that particular compound. So in the second one, this is a little bit trickier. There's a little more going on. So you can see that there's three different atoms in this, right? We've got barium, which is a metal from the left side of the periodic table. And then we've got carbon and oxygen, which are nonmetals, but this CO3 forms a polyatomic ion. So you have to remember those. You're going to have a good idea of what those are. You're going to have to remember all the polyatomic ions. So here's a list of those. You're going to want to take note of those, all their charges. Those will come up quite a bit in chemistry. So kind of have to commit those to memory. But you can use this image for reference until you get them down. So CO3 is carbonate, which has a -2 charge. So for ionic compounds, we just say the first element, which is barium. And then since we have a polyatomic ion, we just name that polyatomic ion. So this one's just barium carbonate. And that's the entire name. And that's how we name those two compounds. That flow chart should be super useful for naming compounds like this. As you can see, there's kind of a lot of rules to remember, but that table really covers most of them.